presumably you're experiencing some of the same challenges, affordability. We've had threats of vacancy control. There's been overzealous politicians charging ridiculous rates and fees on development, which has stymied development. Just curious what the political climate is in New York as it relates to housing.
Yeah, well, for a second there, Mark, I thought you were describing New York when you were talking about what's happening in Vancouver. Very similar parallels. I will say this. I mean, this is a topic that I could talk about for hours and hours and hours. And whenever I get in front of one of our elected officials, whether it's the mayor of New York or the governor of New York State or an assembly member or a senator or city council person, I'm always telling them the solution to all of our housing woes, and this is the case in Vancouver and this is the case all over, is simply on the supply side. You have to encourage the creation of new housing and not try to solve the affordability issue by confiscating private property. It doesn't work. Price controls do not work. They constrict supply. When you constrict supply, you exert upward pressure on prices. So I've said for a long time, the biggest hypocrites in New York City are the policymakers who say, we want New York City to be more affordable for everybody. And I say, oh yeah, well then how come every single piece of legislation that's been implemented or ignored since 2018 has done nothing but constricted supply and exerted upward pressure on rents, making the city less affordable for everybody? And the truth is that a lot of these local policymakers don't want new supply because it brings new people into their districts that don't know them and might not vote for them. And that is the disconnect that you have going on. And even for those policymakers who do not believe that economics works, that an Econ 101 textbook is capitalist propaganda. Just look what happened to Manhattan during the pandemic. We had a lot of people leaving Manhattan. People were not renewing their leases, went out to live with mom and dad, went out to buy a house or rent a house in the suburbs. And our vacancy rose dramatically. Vacancy rising dramatically is like adding to the supply, and rents in Manhattan dropped by 30%. There is not a housing policy or a housing initiative that's been implemented by any municipality anywhere in the United States in history,
in the world, ever,
that has made rents go down by 10%. We had rents drop 30% because of the additional supply. So we need to have the tax abatements that spurred all of the creation of housing at the times when we had decent housing creation. And we need to not marginalize the programs that have done such a great job of inducing the private sector to invest in the housing stock.